Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides at fantasyguides.com, Stephen Rippey, and the freak in the spreadsheets, AJ Cleaver, is also with us today. And we are here, gentlemen, to go over every single matchup for week 4. And don't worry, friends at home, if that sounds like a lot, if this daunting long video is too much for you, I have the chapters in there. Skip to what you want to see because we cater everything for you. Gentlemen, Steven, I'll start with you. Are you ready to go this week? Week 4, quarter mark.
I am. I'm excited. I think it's going to get easier, Andrew. I hope so anyway. I've been a little above 500 on some of my fantasy predictions through the first 3 weeks. I want to be more higher. I know that's not the right way to say that, but you know what I mean. So we have more data points now, Andrew. So things should get better. I'm excited.
Fantasy football first, English language second. Let's go
So
football. True. AJ, are you ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready for week 4, but it's a little scary because I only have 2 football Sundays left of being a single man. I get married in a couple weeks, so only 2 more where I'm not married.
You know what? Now you get to pick which slate of games you get to watch. You don't get both anymore. It's like, if you want to do the morning slate or the afternoon slate, because you're going to have some plans at some point. Isn't that right, Andrew?
That's how it goes. Wait until you have a kid. Death of a bachelor, but we're getting started here. AJ, what is the first matchup we have?
All right. So before we go into the first Sunday game, I do want to throw this little fun fact out because I don't know if it will change. But with the Giants-Cowboys game, we weren't going to talk about it tonight. But I did want to talk a little bit about Brandon Aubrey, who right now would be ranked as the receiver 4, the tight end 1, the RB 6, and the QB 16. So I just wanted to make sure that we got out there that kickers can be important, right, Teuscher?
Absolutely. He says that because I am the owner of Brandon Aubrey in the league we're in together, and my team is unstoppable because of him.
Hey, unpopular opinion. Kickers and defense should be in every fantasy league. I know we don't have it in the one that we're all in together, but I think it's kind of fun. It adds like a little unexpected wrinkle that's hard to plan for that makes it more interesting. That's my opinion.
If NFL teams can't stop kicking and playing defense, you can't either, fantasy players. AJ, get us to the first one.
All right. So first, we have the Saints taking on the Falcons, and the over-under is 42.5, and the Falcons are favored by 2.5. And the fun fact for this one is the game will be played in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, where they have a Chick-fil-A conveniently placed in there. But since football games are played on Sunday, fans just get teased by the sign in there.
It's tragedy. Honestly, that is abuse of the fans, and it's wrong. And I think it's just there because if I'm not incorrect, I think that's where Georgia Bulldogs also play. So they get it on Saturdays.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's bad news. Also, fun fact, AJ, that maybe you could add to your little show sheet there. The Saints also used to be Mercedes-Benz. Am I mistaken? Didn't it used to be the...
I believe that is correct.
It's not anymore. Now I think they're something different. I can't remember what they are, but yeah, they both used to be. But let's talk less about the stadium, more about the matchup. I'm surprised that the Falcons are favored by 2.5. That doesn't feel right to me. Does that feel right to you, Andrew?
Well, it's a home game, and they just looked terrible. I think Vegas thinks they're going a little pumpkin-y on us. They were Cinderella at the ball, having a wonderful time, scoring 40 on the Panthers, and it turns out the Cowboys really suck. Falcons have been good.
Yeah. I wasn't quite expecting that. But anyway, Bijan, definitely starting him. But Kirk Cousins, I'd have to be really hurting a quarterback or in a deeper super flex league before I'm throwing Cousins in my lineup. The Saints still are giving up the 9th fewest points to the quarterback position, so I'm avoiding Kirk Cousins. Drake London, do we know, Andrew, is Lattimore playing?
I do not. Let me check my little injury report right here.
I think you have to play Drake London regardless, but I'm not expecting a big game out of him. It's not a great matchup so far. Saints have been pretty good to start the seasons. Yeah, you got to play him, but not expecting big things. Kyle Pitts, I still don't love the usage. He had the big play last week, and he honestly could have had a monster game. There was 2 touchdowns, one where he was horrifically pass interfered on. Another one was about a 50-yard reception. They got pulled down at the 1. Could have had a much bigger game, but he wasn't targeted that much outside of that. But tight end is a complete tragic dumpster fire right now. Either guys underperforming or guys just flat out injured. There's a lot of tight ends injured right now. So you have to play Kyle Pitts. I've got him as my tight end 6. Saints giving up the third most receiving yards and the 5th most fantasy points to the position to go along with the 7th most receptions. So I think you got to play Pitts. And Mooney, he's more of a deeper flex play. He still is getting targeted quite a bit. I think he had about a 23% and a almost 30% target share the last 2 weeks. So I think you got to play Mooney in this one if you're in a deeper league.
It's just a lot of studs that you kind of are getting forced to play for the Falcons, even though it hasn't been phenomenal, but they also haven't been terrible. Kyle Pitts, as far as tight ends goes, he's fine. It's okay. I'm not upset about it. Drake London, he's been fine. It's not been phenomenal. Bijan, it's been fine. And so you just kind of keep rolling them out, hoping it goes well. And I don't think this game script's going to be favorable, but overall, start your studs. It's going to be fine. And Marshawn Lattimore is not on the practice report based on what I'm seeing here.
Okay. I just feel like this could be a low-scoring game, kind of a boring game, to be honest. 2 division rivals. I could see it being a little bit of a struggle offensively, but we'll see. But this matchup's full of a lot of studs that you really can't bench. Derek Carr kind of came back to life, or not to life, back to reality, I should say, last week. I'm not going to force a Derek Carr into my lineup. He's my QB 19 right now, so he's probably on the bench. Falcons they're not a cake matchup. They're not a hard matchup either. So they're kind of right in the middle. Alvin Kamara, tough matchup for him. Falcons giving up the 4th fewest points to the running back position, but doesn't matter. You're still playing him. Chris Olave finally had a decent game. I'm still waiting for like a big game from Olave. He did come up with 20 points, but it was hard to come by last week. Kind of came really towards the end of the game as well. But I still like him in this matchup. Got him as the wide receiver 11. Falcons are kind of middle of the road against the wide receivers. Rashid Shaheed, more of a deeper league play. I'd say like your wide receiver 3 or flex for the same reasons I just mentioned with Olave. He didn't get you any points last week, so I understand being scared, but he was in our missing points, Andrew. If he just squeezes that ball a little tighter, he could have had a much bigger game. So on that big, which I believe would have been a touchdown. And then the Saints tight ends, no thank you.
According to Next Gen Stats from NFL, great subscription, by the way, not a sponsor, but love it. A lot of these advantages, they have these key advantage meters, and a lot of them across the board are in favor of the Saints, both on offense and defense. So this is saying Vegas might be a little bit off here. Okay. Maybe you're just banking on the Falcons being at home, but this could be an ugly one. It favors the Saints to probably get a good game script, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't have a lot of hope for Rashid Shaheed with some good safety play out in Atlanta, and we saw the Chiefs really couldn't get anything going deep. They haven't been all year, but we'll see. This could be a stinker, a low-key stinker.
Yeah, this is one I just have a feeling is not going to be as much fun to watch. A lot of stud players in it, but could be.
Start your studs. Don't sit anyone. This is not like a downgrade anyone severely, but also don't get too excited over it. There's a small chance to shoot out, but not a high one.
Yeah.
AJ, move us on to the next one.
Alrighty, next we have the Rams taking on the Bears. The Bears are favored by 3. Over under is 41.5. And I was kind of looking today. I'm a little hungry for dessert, so this goes well because Matt Stafford's favorite cookie is called a peanut butter volcano, and it's basically just this huge peanut butter cookie just covered in chocolate.
Huh.
What?
So where do you start with your tidbits, AJ? Where does the Google, what is the first phrase you enter? Matt Stafford, strange
it just
oddities?
It just kind of depends. Sometimes it's fun facts. Sometimes it's just random things that I see on Twitter.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, I think Matt Stafford could be in for a tough day. That cookie sounds okay, but this defensive matchup he's going against doesn't. But I'm going to start with the Bears. Caleb Williams, it's not been pretty at all. But Andrew, I think if he's going to have a get-right game, I think it's this one. Rams, Not so good against the quarterback position, giving up the third most points to the quarterback position, the fifth most passing yards, the fourth most passing touchdowns. And they're giving up a lot of rushing yards too. So I think Caleb, if he's going to do something, it could happen in this one. I really like DJ Moore. If Keenan Allen plays, PFF had him as like one of the best matchups on the week, assuming he's actually okay to play. I think he's about a 50-50 to play. So I think if Keenan is if he does play, I would play him. I would play DJ Moore. If Keenan's out, I would play Rome Odunze in a deeper league because I think he could also have a decent game in this one. But talk me off of it, Andrew. Part of me wanted to put DeAndre Swift in the start post only because of the matchup, only because of the team he plays. It's a good matchup going against the Rams, but talk me out of it.
For those who are listening to this with no video, I shook my head vigorously the entire time you started talking about DeAndre Swift. We have the Bears coaches, thankfully, coming out and saying, hey, that Swift dude kind of stinks. And we're going to start to play Roschon Johnson more. Now, they didn't actually say he stinks because that'd be really funny, but they won't actually say that. But they did say Roschon Johnson, who didn't play offensive snaps 2 weeks ago, is now going to get more of a role because DeAndre Swift stinks. He's bad. He's just a objectively bad running back the way they're using him.
But why did he become was he bad last year?
Yes. So I was complaining about him last year. Look at what Saquon's doing behind the Eagles offensive line. And it's Saquon, but Swift was terrible. Swift is terrible in between the tackles. His only hope is to catch swing passes on the outside. And Shane Waldron doesn't watch film. Like, I'm not saying I'm a genius. It clearly doesn't work, Shane. Do something else. The line isn't great for him because before that he was playing with the Lions O-line.
True.
It's Swift.
So
Roschon Johnson then. He could good start.
Hey, if you're like me in our Dynasty League where you're destroyed at running back, maybe he's a start for you then. Maybe if you're like just really, really hurting. But yeah, like Andrew said, or if you have Christian McCaffrey and you don't have a backup plan, maybe. Or Roschon, like you said, just based on matchup. And then I like Cole Kmet this week. He scored 25 points last week, had a high target share, ran a ton of routes. And this matchup against the Rams is good. They're giving up the fourth most fantasy points to the position. They're giving up the fourth most receiving yards to the position. PFF loves this matchup. They've got it as a 9 on their matchup grade. So I really like Cole Kmet in this one because, again, so many tight ends are injured.
What we need to note is, and I see everyone's flaunting this matchup as a good matchup for DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, and it is. The Rams play a lot of cover 3, which is going to play one single high safety, which means you can throw the ball downfield. That's all Caleb Williams wants to do is to throw the ball downfield because they need to generate explosives. And it's Caleb. He likes to live dangerously. So this is a good start for DJ Moore and Rome. I'm not saying both are going to hit. Odds are both don't hit. But Rome, DFS, cheap play, probably worth your dollar. If you're desperate, do it. Don't sit DJ Moore. If you're worried about him, this is a good start for DJ Moore.
Yep, for sure. On the other side of the ball, I thought Kyron Williams would have a bad game last week. Good God.
Don't doubt Sean.
Well, here's the thing. The yards still weren't incredible. And the efficiency was still bad. He just happened to get 3 touchdowns, doing a flip, getting one of them.
Bad flip, though. Like a 2 out of 10 on the flip. It was a bad flip.
I mean, he did it in the middle of a play.
Bad flip.
But so you're obviously starting him. He's my RB8 on the week. It's you know what? It's actually not that tough of a matchup. I think overall this offense is going to struggle against the Bears, but the running back position, Bears are giving up only the 8th fewest, or sorry, the 8th. They're giving up the 8th most points to the position. So I do think Kyron can do his thing. I don't think anybody else will be able to do their thing as much. So I'm not starting Stafford. I'm avoiding the wide receivers in this one. Any disagreements there, Andrew?
No, it's you start Kyron because he's just going to be the offense, and everything else I'm not chasing. There's just nothing that's worth chasing in this matchup.
I will note that you said in our text chain, I was worried about this Rams offense with all the injuries looking like the 2022 Rams offense. And you did say you thought with McVay and Stafford, they would be serviceable. And I mean, they did show it against a tough 49ers defense last week. So I think there is some hope, but I'm a little worried about the passing options.
Heap on the praise, but yeah, no, the passing options, it's going to be toss all the names in a bag, shake them up, and one of them is going to catch a deep ball, and that was the one you should have started that week. It's unless Tutu Atwell, who had a really good usage downfield and was on the field a lot, Unless he turns into something weekly, you stay away from these passing options.
Yep.
AJ, next one.
All right. Next, we have the Vikings taking on the Packers. The Packers are favored by 3. Over under is 43.5. And while they're not playing at US Bank Stadium this weekend, I was reading that every year there are over 100 birds that die flying into the windows at US Bank Stadium.
Up there in Minnesota.
100?
Yeah.
Hundreds not too many.
Now,
but
this one is played in Green Bay. To be noted, birds will not be dying here.
they could still be dying.
They will be dying, I guess, in Minnesota. Yeah.
Wait. Per what? How often do they die? What was the frequency?
It's little over 100 years, so like one every 3
year.
days.
God. For some reason, I thought might have heard per day. I was like, they got to tear down the stadium.
Well, birds aren't real, so it's all just robots falling apart and crashing. So I'm on to you, government.
Andrew, is Jordan Love playing in this game? Is it 50-50?
I'm assuming yes. I really think he is.
The fact that they're favored by, what'd you say, 3?
3.5. Or no, 3. Sorry.
Yeah, they're favored by 3 against the undefeated Vikings, who have looked really good and beat San Francisco and Houston. They got to be banking on him playing. So let's start with the Vikings. Start everyone. I don't know. Sam Darnold, I'm not fully there yet, Andrew. I think he's going to be good for Justin Jefferson. But I do think there's still a chance the warts could start to appear on Sam Darnold as the season goes on. And this could be one of those games where it pops up on the road in Green Bay. Green Bay's got a decent defense. I'm probably not starting Sam Darnold this week. There's probably people questioning whether they play him or Anthony Richardson. I'd probably go Anthony Richardson in that kind of a scenario. Where are you at with that?
It's a tough one. You definitely can play Sam, and you can definitely try to chase a potential shootout if somehow Matt LaFleur can solve this crazy Vikings defense. And I really think there is a chance that could happen. So Sam Darnold is not someone I'm forcing into a lineup. You say him or Anthony Richardson? Is that the
because I've seen people asking that. A lot of I've literally that specific question.
I'm going to say Sam Darnold is on the level that I am willing to start him over AR. Only if this was a better matchup for AR, we'll get to it. I would say absolutely not ride with it because you're going to hit a baseline 12 points, like 12, 15 points with Sam Darnold. We've seen what the floor is for Richardson is much lower.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see a wake-up call for this game for Sam Darnold on the road against Green Bay. But we'll see. But outside of him, you're obviously Jefferson, you're playing Aaron Jones. Jordan Addison might play in this one. I'm probably avoiding Addison until I see something. This isn't a great matchup for him. So those are really the only 2 players from Minnesota that I'm looking to start. As far as Green Bay goes, well, let's just talk as if Jordan Love is playing. If Jordan Love is playing, he's at home. It is against a really tough Minnesota Vikings defense. Are you waiting a week, Andrew? Or are you just throwing him in?
Going right in. Everything I'm seeing from our lovely sports med analytics, Deepak, love them. Everything I'm seeing from our other guy, Fantasy Docs, love them. Is they're saying once he's back, he's ready to roll.
Okay.
Rushing might be down a little bit. He didn't do that anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to put Love back into my lineup, knowing it's a tough matchup. Again, if I have Jaden Daniels, of course I'm starting him over him. I'm trying to get a couple more names. But yeah, I'm generally fine. Treat Love like you would normally. Don't let the injury scare you off.
Yeah. Minnesota, what's kind of interesting about their defense is they've given up a ton of completions and a ton of passing yards. They just haven't given up a lot of touchdowns on defense, the Vikings defense. So I think Jordan Love, I think it's going to be a tougher matchup for him, but he is at home. We like the wide receivers, so you're playing him. Josh Jacobs, I think it'll be a tougher matchup for him. Minnesota giving up the 6th fewest fantasy points, the 5th fewest touches, and the 3rd fewest yards to the running back position. So I think it could be tough sledding for Josh Jacobs, but it doesn't matter. He should get enough work, especially if this game is going to be close. I think he's the guy. I don't think they're giving Emmanuel the ball as much in a tight game like this. So I think we see a lot of Josh Jacobs, and volume will be king. Jaden Reed, he was a wide receiver 1 after week 1, but the loss of Love really hurt. With Love back in, we love Jaden Reed. Minnesota giving up the 2nd most receiving yards and the 3rd most receptions to wide receivers. So I think he could have a day. I think Romeo Dubs is in flex consideration as well. And even Tucker Kraft, because of how bad the tight end position is, you could have a dart throw at him if you're really, really hurting.
I will say, giving Jordan Love some credit. He is a good quarterback, and the Minnesota Vikings have a vicious, vicious defense that just likes to make quarterbacks look silly and show them things they haven't seen before. And Jordan Love's specialty is the Vikings defense is going to switch up on you mid-play, and you're going to have to figure it out. Jordan Love's thing is hanging onto the ball long enough, extending the play long enough to figure out what you're doing, and then finding the open spot. He's just so well coached. He's good at extending the play that even over someone like CJ Stroud, that's not Stroud's thing. His thing is not extending the play. It's knowing what you were doing already and pushing it downfield. I think Love could have himself a fine day against Minnesota, specifically hitting a deep ball or two with the crazy blitzes that Minnesota's going to try to throw.
These divisional games throw you for a loop. Like, wouldn't be surprised if one team blows the other team out. You know, like it's probably going to be a back and forth battle where it's really close. I wouldn't be shocked if Green Bay, took them to the house on this one at home. And
I'm predicting a lot of nothing, couple big plays coming from each side. That's just how these defenses and offenses match up to me.
Yep.
AJ, next one.
Alrighty, Teuscher. Next, we have the Steelers taking on the Colts. The Steelers are favored by 1.5. Over/under set at 40.5. And because I'm a little superstitious, I won't say anything bad about your 0-3 Colts.
Whoa.
We kind of already did, but
oh, sorry, 1-2, 1-2.
they feel 0-3 though, Andrew.
Well, but the record sheet says otherwise, and if we win, we're 2-2, baby. Let's go.
Man. But as much as I've loved seeing Justin Fields start off as 3-0 with the Steelers, I'd like to think that he's in good company. But the last Steeler to win their first 3 games as a part of the team was Duck Hodges.
That is an all-time great name for a quarterback, and he'll never go, I'll never forget you, Duck. Let's just put it that way.
Well, speaking of never forget, you forgot to mention that they were undefeated, did you not? Did you not refer to them as the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, I said they were 3-0. I think that would be implied.
It roughly means the same thing.
I think it does too. Justin Fields in this one. I like him this week, Andrew. I don't think your Colts defense can do a whole lot. I think they kind of stink.
Whoa, you're right.
Yeah. No, I think Justin Fields is he a streamer this week? Do we call him a streamer? I think he probably is because you just probably got him off a waiver wire. But I like him. I got him as a QB 10 this week. And I also think if he wins this one and Russ is ready to go, you can't pull him. You can't pull him after starting 4-0. I know it's not like it's been pretty or anything, but you got to keep rolling with it. So I think Justin Fields knows he's got to put up a big game to hold off Russell Wilson. And I think he will have a good game. So I like Justin Fields in this one. Najee Harris could get a ton of work in this one because Jaylen Warren, I don't think is playing. And if that's the case, Najee's going to get you 20 touches for 80 yards, Andrew? Does that sound about right?
Yep.
And he could get a touchdown in this one. Colts are giving up the third most fantasy points to, I'm reading the wrong thing. The most touches to the running back position and the third most total yards to the position. So he could, even though he's inefficient, he'll get enough volume to get a decent amount of yards, maybe a few receptions, and hopefully he falls in the end zone. That's what you're hoping for. George Pickens, I like him in this one. Colts giving up the third most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. I think George Pickens could have a game. I also think Pat Freiermuth could have a game. Now, the only thing that makes me nervous about this is I just mentioned 4 players from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense that I think are startable. Andrew, that doesn't feel right, does it?
No, because it's the Steelers, and that's never the case. I think you can fire up Najee as a safe play. The Colts, again, going back to this next-gen stats data, have an incredible matchup. They're saying in overall rushing efficiency. The Steelers are not ripping off big plays at all. They rank 30th in overall rushing efficiency according to next-gen stats.
Easy to believe that with what I've been watching.
So that being said, this is actually a low-key, not phenomenal matchup for Mr. Najee Harris because if the Colts get ahead, they're in trouble. Now, that being said...
Now, he'll stay on the field, though. I think there will be some Cordero.
Safe play.
Yeah, he's going to get you between 8 and 13 fantasy points.
Unless he gets into the end zone a whole bunch, which the Steelers just haven't done at all. Najee Harris, I just don't want people chasing the Joe Mixon week 1 thing. That's because they played the Texans and they have a good pass game. We had to play for it. Don't chase some crazy high upside for Najee this week, because don't take the matchup good in that way. There will be a baseline. He will be fine. I do think Justin Fields, further in either situation of positive or negative game script, will be good because you can take deep shots against the Colts. So there might be some more mistakes for Justin Fields in this one, but I do think it's going to offer opportunity for him to actually have to do something.
Yeah, no, I a lot of these guys, it's all floor play. Like even Pat Freiermuth, PFF loves the matchup, him versus this Colts defense. They've got it at a 9 out of 10. But I've got him as a tight end 7, Andrew. But again, because the tight end field is just decimated. So it's a good matchup for him. It's a good matchup for Pickens. It's a good matchup for Najee. But I think all of these guys have low ceilings.
Put Pickens in. I'm going to tell you he's catching at least one deep bomb. Cite Rome Odunze, cite Nico Collins. It is painful to watch, man. He's gonna catch a deep ball for sure.
And then on the other side of the ball, we spoke about it just a minute ago about Anthony Richardson. I've got him as the QB 14, so you can take that for what you want. They are at home. One good thing, I guess. He did put up a lot of points against the Houston Texans when they played earlier this year. So I think people are way over panicking on Anthony Richardson. It's been 2 bad games. Andrew, how many games has he started so far?
Like 2 in his entire life. I think it's like 16 in his career.
But I just mean, I was actually just going NFL. Was he like 6 starts now as a professional football player?
I'll bet that, but roughly.
I think people need to relax on him a little bit. He's still a rookie, going through some growing pains. The guy's going to keep running.
7 starts. 7
starts.
Career starts.
Okay, how many did he finish?
Don't ask that question.
Yeah. So I do think it's going to be a hard game for him, but it's really hard unless you drafted Jaden Daniels or somebody after him. It's really hard to bench him, I think, in this one. It just kind of depends on your options. I'm not benching him for Sam Darnold. I'll put it that way. Jonathan Taylor, tough matchup for him. Don't care playing him. Steelers are, however, giving up the second fewest fantasy points to the position. Michael Pittman, no thanks. I can't get a Colts receiver in my lineup, Andrew.
Not a single one. No. Anthony Richardson. Steven, we got to put a hand up and say on our in our buy-sell we were a little wrong on the designed rush attempts. Anthony Richardson's actually getting a decent amount of designed rush attempts. The issue, he's not scrambling. He is a just 7% scrambling rate. That's less than Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, and then it gets up to the guys who actually scramble a lot. So this is less impressive, but he's not scrambling. I'm hoping Shane Steichen says, hey, buddy, want you to stay healthy and all, but you're not worth much unless you're running. So please go do that more. And that's where we're going to see this going. We talked about it on the buy-sell pod of the big difference is rushing touchdowns aren't happening. There's a lot of positive regression. But again, on film, Anthony Richardson is as bad as it looks.
Also, small sample size, 3 games. I don't know. Listen, this isn't going to show up in the stat sheet, Andrew, but he's playing against Justin Fields. He sees Justin Fields pull off a 40-yard run. That's going to stick in his mind. He's going to go, you know what? I can do that. I can do it better than that. And I can truck a guy on my way to the end zone. So I think we see a little more scrambling from Richardson in this one.
I am very upset that now I'm telling myself, hopefully Anthony Richardson will look to Justin Fields and he'll play better. I didn't want that to be the case, though, Steven. AJ,
yeah.
Get us out of here. Right, to summarize, start Taylor because you have to. Start Richardson if you have to. Do not start Michael Pittman under any circumstances. No. Wait till he has a good week, and then maybe he will be usable. But that's it.
Or no, sellable, tradable.
Yes. AJ, next one, please.
All right, next we have the Broncos taking on the Jets. The Jets are favored by 7.5. Over under is 39.5. And this past week, Aaron Rodgers threw his 480th regular season passing touchdown. But it was
good. Keep going.
But it was his first to a receiver drafted in the first round.
First in his career, he's ever thrown a touchdown to a first-round receiver, Aaron Rodgers. I think he does that on purpose. No. I guarantee. Has he ever had a first-round receiver?
No, that's what I was going to say. Think back to Green Bay. They have never drafted a receiver in the first round that I can think of. Maybe was Javon Walker was I think he'd already left by the time Rodgers was there. So then they had Greg Jennings, second-round pick. They had who's the white guy? I can't think of his name
Jordy
right now.
Nelson.
Jordy
Jordy
Nelson.
Nelson, second round pick. Devontae Adams, second round pick. Yeah, he's never had a first round wide receiver, which actually says a lot about him maybe as a quarterback, being able to make these guys turn into what should be like first round picks. Well, let's start with the Jets. Start Brees Hall. I'm not starting Aaron Rodgers though. It is a tougher matchup for him. I think would I be shocked if he gets 2 touchdowns? No, he's not going to get you any rushing upside. I don't even think the yards will be that good. So I think it's a pretty low ceiling in this one. So I'd have to be pretty desperate to throw him in my lineup. I would temper expectations for Garrett Wilson. They're just not fully on the same page right now. Like, even though he's been targeted quite a bit, he only caught half of the targets that were thrown to him last week. Denver presents a tough matchup. They're giving up the fewest points to the wide receiver position. You can't bench Wilson, but going up against Surtain, he'll be going against him in quite a few snaps. Temper expectations. Same thing with Lazard. I'm not really looking to start Lazard. I'm not chasing the 2 touchdowns he's had in 2 primetime games this year. I do think a flex option is Braylon Allen. If you're hurting at running back, I think Braylon Allen could have himself a game. Kind of Denver can't really stop the run, and I think that the Jets will control this game. They're 7.5-point favorites. They're going to use a lot of him. Plus, he's looked really good. He looks like somebody I don't want to tackle, Andrew. And then I think Tyler Conklin's streamable in this one. He's getting he finally got some targets last week. He's been running routes more than almost any tight end in the NFL. He got some targets last week. Hopefully that holds up, and he can be streamable for you.
Yep, I like the shout out of Braylon Allen. I was going to make it if you didn't. It's kind of like Bucky Irving last week had himself a nice little game as that second running back. The Broncos actually ranked 20. They're actually not that bad in rushing efficiency. Their defense is number 7 overall in stopping the run efficiently. The reason that fantasy running backs keep scoring on them is the Broncos are always losing. They stink. So
they're giving the ball up a lot.
Exactly. I see the Jets getting ahead, them keeping that positive game script and just running until the Broncos give up, want to go home, and try to fire Sean Payton and get rid of this whole regime already.
Yep. And also, if you have the Jets defense, don't ask me Jets or blah, blah, blah. Just start the Jets defense. If you've got them, great matchup for them. Bench the Broncos. Moving on. AJ.
Don't play a Broncos player before we actually move on.
Yeah. I said bench the Broncos.
Okay.
No.
A running back, not a single one.
No.
Not a single one?
They haven't been able to do it in what were decent matchups. Last week was supposed to be a decent matchup against Tampa Bay. No, I'm not playing a Bronco. You heard it here first. I am not.
I think you can.
I am wearing. Look at this shirt, Andrew. This shirt. It's a Mile High Football. I'm a Broncos fan. I'm not.
Check out the page. Go to the link. Get yourself a shirt. Mile High fan. Yeah, no, don't start a Bronco.
No,
sorry. It's going to be painful. Cite Ramondre Stevenson from last week. That's why you don't want to start a Bronco. AJ, abandoned ship. Get us onto another one.
All right. Next, we are taking us down to a ship. We have the Eagles taking on the Buccaneers. The Eagles are favored by 2. Over under is 43.5. And guys, we might see quite a bit of rain this weekend with this game.
Hurricane. What's the name of this hurricane?
I think it's pronounced Helene.
Helene. Honey, lady, stay away. Let us play football because it's going to be a slip and slide. You remember 2 years ago, Justin Fields in Chicago? When they were literally slip and sliding on the field, That's going to be this game.
So that means, has it been a low, excuse me, have there been a lower number of hurricanes this year, AJ? Because don't they go alphabetically? So if this starts with an H, we're already almost into October. Like, I know Katrina happened in August, early August when it happened. So we got to be lower on the hurricane totals this year.
That's why everyone tuned into this.
Lower. We've been lower. But,
I think this is a low year for hurricanes. But back to Tampa, Jalen Hurts is going to be depleted of some weapons, unless Andrew, is Jahan Dotson still a weapon? I mean, he's a former first-round pick.
Let me check real quick, Steven. No, he stinks, says the stats.
So how far then do you drop Jalen Hurts, Andrew? Because I have him currently as my QB6, but now that feels high with no A.J. Brown, no Devonta Smith. Where am I too high on him?
Let's go name game. The guys you have right behind him, would you prefer Joe Burrow against Carolina or Jalen Hurts?
I got to go Joe Burrow.
I think I'm in agreement there. Dak Prescott, Thursday Night Football. Well, it'd be too late to make the decision when you hear this, but who would you prefer beforehand?
Dak Prescott.
Against the Giants, I think I'm in agreement. I think this is where I draw the line. Patrick Mahomes versus the Chargers. No, I'm not there for that.
It's funny that shouldn't just close your eyes. Jalen Hurts without any weapons, or Patrick Mahomes with a lot of weapons, and you're still saying Hurts?
Patrick Mahomes can't squat 600 pounds and run the ball and run all over the place. So I'm going to say check one for Jalen Hurts. When there's no options to throw to downfield, what do?
He will run.
Take off
He
Jalen.
will run. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I haven't completely imploded his fantasy ranking, because I still think I think he's going to show up. I think he's going to play. He's still got Barkley. He's still got Dallas Goedert. He's still got a good offensive line. So they will, I'm guessing, is Lane Johnson probably out in this one? He got a concussion. So there's a chance he could
He's
play
a do not practice as of Wednesday.
We're probably going to be without him. This could be rough. And Tampa, if I'm not mistaken, knocked the Eagles out of the playoffs last year. I think they've actually played the Eagles pretty well the last two times they've played them. This could be a tough game for both for these guys. If you have Jalen Hurts, though, you have to play him, because hopefully you don't have another quarterback on your roster unless you're a super flex league. If you do, you're doing something wrong. You got to trade one of them. But you're playing him. You're playing Barkley. Not a great matchup on paper for Dallas Goedert, but I got him as my tight end 5, Andrew, for all the reasons we keep talking about. He just had a really big game. He's going to have to throw the ball to him. So you got to play Goddard in this one. That's probably it for the Eagles, though.
And Goddard's really going to be leaned on for quick passing game. Todd Bowles is known for his blitzes, and Jalen Hurts is known for stinking against the blitzes. I think this game smacks an under. I think Jalen Hurts looks terrible. I think he gets it done just enough, though, on the ground. It's hopefully Devontae Smith plays. They desperately need it.
Yeah. Based on the weather and stuff, probably not as excited about the wide receivers. I'll probably have to give them a little bit of a knock in my rankings. And it's sad because this is a good matchup. Philly secondary, not very good. I'm still going to play Chris Godwin. I'm still playing Mike Evans, but maybe just temper some expectations for them. Bucky Irving, hamstring injury. Probably not playing in this one, Andrew.
I've heard conflicting reports about whether or not he'll be good to go. I'm not thrilled to start him anyway. The Eagles are really, really good at stopping the run, so that's not something I'm trying to do anyway.
Well, but they are giving up the 6th most total yards to the running back position. It sounds like you're lying. I don't know if we're looking at different stats. I think Rachaad White can be played in this one if Irving is out. If Bucky Irving's out, I think he'll do enough. A little bit in the run game, enough in the receiving game to give you a decent floor. Probably not a big ceiling in this one. Maybe you get lucky, gets a touchdown. So I think Rachaad White is startable if Irving is out.
The reason I think we're seeing a lot of rushing success going against the Eagles is they've played Alvin Kamara, who touched the ball a million times. Mm-hmm. They played Bijan Robinson, and they played Josh Jacobs week 1 in an absolute shootout. The Eagles are good at stopping the run. I don't think the Buccaneers will force them into a bad game script.
And to be fair, historically they have been pretty good over the last couple of years.
Jalen Carter's really freaking good at football. Yeah, so start your studs in Tampa. God help the weather and Jalen Hurts.
It's too bad. We got this would be one of the most fun fantasy games to watch, but it's already been such a down year for offenses, and then we get a good matchup like this, and it's like hurricane, no receivers, not as much fun.
Ruining our fun. The league already can't score. Hey, let's get to another game. Actually, this one's a little bit better.
Alrighty, we've got the Bengals taking on the Panthers. Cincinnati is favored by 4.5. Over under is 46.5. And in his last 2 starts, Andy Dalton has finished as the QB8 and QB7 in those weeks.
You know what? I was going to say that, AJ, because I wasn't going to say that specifically, but I specifically remember recommending the Seahawks defense against the Panthers last year when they faced Andy Dalton. And I went and double checked because I remembered it. He did almost exactly what he did on Sunday 1 year ago in the same week. It was week 3, both seasons, and he basically put up an identical stat line. It was crazy.
The Panthers' offensive line is really good, and Andy Dalton looks fantastic. Their pass blocking is really good, and Andy Dalton looks good behind it. And hey, Bryce Young, you actually had some weapons. It's your fault.
But it is. It does feel like it's his fault.
Red Rifle revenge game, Steven.
Tangent, Andrew, real quick. With this offensive scoring so low, when do we see Roger Goodell take away 2 high safeties?
When do you see Roger Goodell just say, well, the defense now is to play with 10 players?
10 players, no 2 high safeties. You can only do cover 0.
Whenever you go to tackle a guy, you must ask his permission first.
Yeah, seriously. All right, Bengals side of the ball, you're playing Joe Burrow. He had a good game last week. He's my QB7 this week. Not as good of a matchup for Jamar Chase and the receivers as it was last week, but it's still fine. You're still playing Jamar Chase. I would just temper some expectations. Excuse me. The best matchup goes to Zach Moss. I think he's going to have a good game in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Brown also had a good game, but I really like Zach Moss this week. I got him as my RB16. Scored 21 fantasy points last week. I could see him doing something similar this week. So, and T. Higgins, I like him this week. I think you should play him as well.
You can run the ball against the Panthers defense.
I also forgot Mike Gesicki. I'm sorry, Andrew. Mike Gesicki, desperation streamer option. I think he fits the bill this week.
I'm personally kind of trying to steer clear of Mike Gesicki. His usage is really weird because the Bengals have a nice young tight end named Eric All who's getting on the field. Mike Gesicki only played 50% of the snaps last game. Now, he's very efficient on them, but I don't know if he's going to be as efficient as he was against that. Now, the Panthers defense isn't that much better, but I feel like you're getting a little bit lucky at some point. That's not enough volume to go off of. I don't know. So Mike Gesicki, you can start him another week, but if he's someone you think you can start relying on, you can never rely on Mike Gesicki.
No, I don't think you can rely on him. I'm just saying for the matchup this week. Carolina
for sure.
Giving up the most receiving touchdowns to the tight end position, the third most fantasy points. PFF has it at 9 out of 10 on their
unfortunately,
matchup chart,
might get split up between a couple of tight ends is what I'm saying.
Could be. Other side of the ball, Andy Dalton. Listen, he's been good for, like AJ said, 2 games in a row in back-to-back seasons. I think he could be good in this one, but I'm not going crazy with it. I'm not starting him over Anthony Richardson. I've got him as a back-end QB2. I need to see it a little more, Andrew. I know this guy, he's been around. We've seen it. But Deontay Johnson popped up on the injury report this week, today, I believe, with a hamstring injury. Deontay's not a guy that's proven that he can play with these kind of injuries. 1, suit up. 2, play well with them. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So I'm not starting Andy Dalton most likely. And Deontay Johnson really depends on when we get more information on that injury. Have to start him if it sounds like he's good to go. I've got him as my wide receiver 19 right now, but I would temper some expectations if that hamstring injury proves to be more significant. Chuba Hubbard, he had a good game last week. Yeah, you got to fire him up. I got him as RB17.
He had 26 opportunities last week.
Well, and Cincinnati's given up the 7th most opportunities to running backs. So I think that Chuba, it's a good matchup for him for both those reasons we just mentioned. I like him. That's probably it for me. I'm not there yet with Leggett. So that's probably it for me for the Panthers.
Leggett is a worthwhile. You were desperate. You just picked up a guy. There's a last-second scratch on Sunday. Throw him out there. Worth a shot, not someone you want to force in. Here's a stat for you before we move on. Chuba Hubbard has 13 carries between the tackles. 62% of his attempts are going between the tackles. And the Bengals have contacted rushers behind the line of scrimmage on inside runs at the 4th highest rate in the NFL. However, they've allowed the 2nd most yards after contact. So the Bengals players are simply too bad to stop the running back.
They can't tackle.
Fire up Chuba.
Chuba is also Andrew becoming the next James Conner in my life, where every time the matchup looks awful on paper, he comes through. So he's a guy I feel like I can't put on a sit list anymore until further notice because he keeps burning me.
Chuba Hubbard's gonna go sign with like the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs next year, and he's just gonna be in our lives forever. He'll haunt us forever.
Yep.
AJ, put us on to the next one.
Alrighty, next we have Jacksonville going down to Houston. The Texans are favored by 6. Over under is 45.5. And in his first 18 games, Trevor Lawrence had 13 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. He was 3-15. His completion percentage was 59.5. Now, let's go over to Bryce Young, who in his first 18 games is 2-16, has 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and a 58.3 completion percentage.
Yeah, but who's got the better hair? It's not even a question. So, Trevor Lawrence, will you just do this for us? I mean, you're looking across at the field at CJ Stroud. He's the quarterback you were supposed to be. You were supposed to be this franchise-changing quarterback, and you look as average. You look below average. He's had one good season, Andrew, this is his fourth season, right? One out of three.
One good season.
Yeah,
I think he had
good.
25 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, he was good that year. And he had the game in the playoffs where he beat the Chargers and Justin Herbert. He looked good in that game. But he has not looked good for most of his career. Have a game. Come on. Texans giving up the sixth most fantasy points to the position, giving up the fifth most passing touchdowns to the position. Why don't you throw a few, Trevor? Huh? Why don't you throw a few? So, but don't play him. No. I'm just saying do it. Don't play him. He's my QB 23 on the week. He's been awful this year. Travis Etienne, Andrew, it's another situation you just have to play him. Like, I'm not excited about it. He's my RB 19. Houston is good against the running back position. They give up the seventh fewest points. They give up the fifth fewest receptions. They're bottom 5 in total yards. It's all bad. But you're stuck. You got to play him. I liked him coming into the season. I just hope Jacksonville can right the ship. The wide receivers, it's a kind of a desperation play. I've got them as wide receiver 3 flex options. And when I say that, I'm just talking about Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk.
It's an interesting. You're just hoping for this matchup to go well, that the Texans ball out against what's been a really not great Jacksonville defense. Now, the points per game says the Jacksonville defense has been okay, but there's just been some stinkers. They played the Dolphins, who were reeling. Who did they have a low shootout? Oh, they played the Browns. So the Jacksonville defense, it's not been great. They're bad at stopping a lot of things. You're hoping Trevor gets in a negative game script, and he's just chucking the ball downfield, and that lets some pressure off of ETN. That's your only hope in this game. So you can start guys because of the high over-under.
Well, and you got to think, like, Trevor, for a while there, he had to have been thinking, like, I'm the cream of the crop at the quarterback position. And now he might be thought of as, like, the third best quarterback in that division. So I want to see this guy shine and show up, because it's more fun when these quarterbacks are good. He stinks right now. But one that doesn't stink, CJ Stroud, you start him. He's my QB5 on the week. Anybody watch the Monday night game? Josh Allen could not be stopped against this Jaguars defense. I think CJ Stroud will be in a similar boat. Now, he won't have Tank Dell, Andrew. Tank Dell's not expected to play, but he's got good enough weapons. This feels like a Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs smash game. I feel like both of these guys, I think they both could finish top 15 this week. So love both of them. Get them both
Here's
in your
a stat
lineup.
for you on Nico Collins. Nico Collins has totaled 95 receiving yards when lined up against press. It's the third highest mark in the NFL. And the Jaguars play the 5th highest rate of press coverage in the NFL, as well as the highest rate of man defense, man coverage in the NFL. Nico is going to kill them.
And they're not good against slot wide receivers. So, and I would assume Stephon Diggs stays in the slot even without Tank Dell, because that would be what, Noah Brown on the outside then, on the other side, if Tank can't go.
For the Texans in the slot?
No. They'll keep Diggs in the slot. That's what I'm saying.
The receiver is going to be playing behind him. It's not Noah Brown's off somewhere else. It's John Mechie.
Is it Mechie? Okay, my bad. I'm thinking of last year. But yeah, no, Stephon Diggs, I think he's going to have a big game in the slot in this one. And then Cam Akers, I think he's serviceable in this one. Jaguars giving up the third most receptions to the running back position, third most fantasy points to the running back position. Not that he'll catch a lot of passes, but I don't think we're going to get Dameon Pierce again. I think he's back-to-back, did not participate in practice. So I think volume alone should be good enough for Cam Akers. I am as my RB28 right now, but that was kind of like not knowing if Dameon Pierce is going to play. I might bump him up a little bit from that. So he's definitely in play this week. He's probably more of like a back-end RB2.
Yeah, it's something you can do. Hopefully he scores. Cam Akers is really weird. He'll have some really cool highlight plays, but he's just not like a good down-and-down running back. So you're hoping maybe he'll find his way into the end zone. You can consider starting Dalton Schultz in this one.
Yeah,
just because of Tank Dell being down.
Yeah, I meant to mention him. Not a great matchup on paper. Jacksonville hasn't given up a ton of points to the tight end position. They've given up the 8th fewest, actually. But with Tank Dell out and this offense being as good as it is, I think Dalton Schultz, got him as my tight end 13. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent game in this one.
Absolutely. That's basically it. I'm really hoping Brian Thomas catches a deep ball and pays off something for the Jaguars. AJ, on to the next one.
All right, so we're jumping into the 3 o'clock games. We have the Commanders playing the Cardinals. Cardinals are favored by 3.5. We have our highest over under of the week
Yeah, we
with
do.
50.5. And just stick with me on this one. So the hurricane down in Florida is said to have up to 20 feet in storm surge. So just a little comparison, that's about the size of a 2-story house, just a little taller than a giraffe, 2.5 Christmas trees, 3.15 Jaden Daniels, or about 15 Kyler Murrays.
I
That's
was
it. It's
waiting.
not a
I was
fun
waiting.
fact.
As soon
waiting
as you said
too.
heights, I was waiting for the Kyler Murray joke.
I
Where was it going to come?
I was so lost for a minute there, and then when you got, I figured it out. Nice job, AJ. I think that math could be off though. But let's go with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, QB1. Guy looks amazing. He's an 80% completion percentage. 80.
I need to go
80%.
find an A dot on this man. It's
Don't-
not been.
Don't care.
Last game was the exception. I'm still writing on the Jaden Daniels isn't phenomenal train, but he's good in fantasy. That is for sure.
You need to whatever biases you had against his height or his BMI, his age, his 1 year of college production, whatever that is, you just put it away. Throw
Hold
it
on.
away.
His A dot in week 1 was 5.4. His A dot in week 2 was 4.7.
Don't
No,
care.
last week was 9.7. But
He's end of career Drew Brees mixed with Michael Vick. Love it. Jaden Daniels, though, obviously starting him. My QB4 on the week. It's a good matchup for him, too. Cardinals can't really stop the quarterback position. One of my favorite starts this week, Brian Robinson. There's going to be no Austin Eckler in this one. PFF has this a perfect 10 out of 10 in their matchup grade. The Arizona Cardinals giving up the third most touches, 7th most fantasy points to the position. He's already been good. He's just a good running back. He's already had 3 good games. He should have a 4th. Playing him. Terry McLaurin, thank God, finally came to life last week. Great matchup for him as well. Arizona just not very good on defense overall. So I'm playing McLaurin in this one. He's my wide receiver 24. And again, Zach Ertz. Andrew, you hate him. You don't like tight ends that are inefficient and that are especially that they're old. But he's my tight end 12 this week. Great matchup for him as well. I think you can get him in lineups.
It's an interesting matchup against the Cardinals. They just do some funky things. They try to throw anything they can at you schematically, but one thing they cannot do is pressure the quarterback, which means Jaden Daniels, just like last week, is going to have all day long to try to find Mr. Terry deep down the field. I think this is another good one for Terry, but Terry will probably be a sell high for me after this week, but that's one more good week for you.
I think, he's got Cleveland after this, which I'm not as optimistic about. Jaden Daniels, though, Andrew, we nailed it. We said he's going to scramble more than anyone in the league, and that so far that's been proven. He hasn't had fewer than 10 rushing attempts in any game. I don't see why this one will be any different. Other side of the ball, Kyler Murray's my QB1 on the week. We've talked ad nauseum about how bad this Washington Commanders defense is. Kyler Murray is not going to be able to be stopped either. He's going to have a monster game in this one. Commanders giving up the most fantasy points, the most passing touchdowns to the position. So I think he is going to connect on a couple of touchdowns, possibly both of them to Marvin Harrison Jr., who is a smash start. He's my wide receiver 3 on the week, Andrew. Perfect 10 out of 10 on PFF's matchup metric. So love him. And then James Conner, got to play him. It's my RB7 on the week. Would you go as far as Michael Wilson, or is that too far?
I was just about to bring him up. Mr. Michael Wilson garnered 9 targets last week. I think if you want a fancy schmancy DFS play to blow up out of nowhere, a little Juwan Jennings out of nowhere, that's Michael Wilson this week.
Yep. I think, and that's why I like have one best ball league, Andrew, just one, where you don't have to worry about it. You can get points from a guy like Michael Wilson. Yeah, like you said, 9 targets last week. Did we cover them all? Yeah. On to the next one.
On to the next one, Mr. AJ.
All right, we have the Patriots 49ers. 49ers are favored by 10. Over under is 40.5. And during college, Jacoby Brissett, to show his appreciation to his O-line, would bring the O-line desserts like cookies and brownies after their games.
I don't know how I feel about that. You want to give them literally a cookie for playing well, but where did he go to college? AJ, find that. Where did Jacoby Brissett go to college?
He went to UNLV.
Whoa! Wow. Never would have guessed.
He's one of those guys, I think, Andrew, where he looks like he's playing himself in a movie. Like when in the uniform, he doesn't look like a real football player. He looks like here, take this generic uniform and throw it on for this movie that we didn't get NFL approval for. That's what it feels like. So yeah, you're not starting. I'm not starting a single Patriot in this one. Maybe Ramondre, but I'm really worried about him in this matchup. I guess you could cling to the fact that Kyron Williams, it was a tough matchup for him as well. But Gibson can catch passes, and we saw Gibson get used a lot in that last game. I don't know how bad the injury was for Stevenson, but they just stopped playing him. I could see another stinker like last week.
It's just gross. This offense is bad, and it somehow wasn't looking terrible. And they got in positive game scripts somehow, and Ramondre was eating him. We called it as a sell high. And Hunter Henry fans, like, he might be okay. Hunter Henry's had like 2 out of his 3 games he did not score 5 points. Don't keep chasing that. There's a chance though, if anything works, it is Ramondre. But Ramondre's got to be like what, outside the top, roughly RB30 for me probably this week. It's not good.
Yeah, I think I was looking. I think I'm at RB25, and that feels too high. I might have to move him further down. It's just I'll see who's in front of, or behind him, but it feels too high. Like, because I could see him doing exactly what happened last week. Let's move over to San Francisco. Jordan Mason, Drew, are we getting any Christian McCaffrey at all this season? Is it over already?
They just came. So first off, whenever you hear a guy is traveling to Europe to see an injury specialist, that's a red flag. I saw people saying, well, don't worry, he'll get great medical care over there. Buddy, it takes 6 months to get medical care in Europe. Let alone just like he has to go somewhere in Europe to get medical care. And this is a problem. And rumor is that to even get into the office could take a while. Then the treatment could take a while.
What is it? Is it like a torn calf?
It is Achilles tendonitis. And the scary part of it means that part of your Achilles tendon is inflamed, meaning it's probably ripping a little bit, meaning it's weakened, meaning he is a toothpick away from having a torn Achilles.
God. Hey, all of you that grabbed Jordan Mason off the waiver wire, congrats on your championship. Go to custom fantasy rings. They have some really good championship rings. So good for you on spending the most fab on Jordan Mason. God, we got to love fantasy football. Jordan Mason, my RB3 on the week, Andrew. Is that too high? I mean, they're 10.5-point favorites, and he gets all the work. I guess Correndo got a little bit last week, but I'm not expecting that to go up too much.
Go for it. You can't expect the efficiency to be there for Jordan Mason because, well, the Patriots are going to be down the whole time, and their defense actually is not terrible at stopping the run. You're just going to run the ball a whole lot because you're going to be up the whole time, and they're going to be on the goal line. And, you can go ahead and start Jordan Mason and be very happy about it.
Well, and I think you can also start Brock Purdy in this one. He had a monster game last week against the Rams. No reason to think he can't do it again against the Patriots at home. Patriots giving up the most completions to the quarterback position. Now, I know he's a little depleted in his weapons. I don't know if George Kittle's going to go in this one. I kind of doubt it. I feel like he's probably another week away. But I mean, the rise of Juwan Jennings brings a little less fear in them not having. They keep finding weapons, Andrew. So Jordan Mason's a weapon. Juwan Jennings is a weapon. We know Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk, try to get him. Try to trade for him before Sunday if you can, because I think Ayuk could have a big game in this one. Definitely start Ayuk.
Steven, you want to tell the world where you have Juwan Jennings ranked this week?
I have him as wide receiver 26, and I don't remember how I put him that high, but it's a good matchup. They're giving up the second most receptions to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I'm not making fun of you for it. We saw Alan Lazard pop off last week for an absolutely phenomenal game. We saw DK Metcalf pop up for an absolutely fantastic game. There is one good defensive back on the Patriots, and he can't cover everyone all the time. It's a good matchup for Juwan Jennings. I just mentioned a bunch of outside receivers as well. So, Juwan Jennings, why not?
The guy had put up almost 50 points. Like,
he's good.
Do you know how hard that is to do?
Why do the Niners get all these good players? They've had enough.
They are phenomenal at scouting, just not drafting quarterbacks, but scouting other positions.
They'll go find one in the 7th round, a quarterback, and they'll make them work just enough. Anything else in this matchup, Steven?
I don't think so, except 49ers defense. Definitely start them. Same with the Jets. You got them, you start them.
Let's hope we get Drake May out there just to excite our lives more a little bit. We love you, Jacoby Brissett, but not as much fun. AJ, on to the next one.
All right, we have the Browns Raiders. The Raiders are favored by 2.5. The over/under is 36.5, which just is not great. And a little fun fact about the Raiders Stadium: it's actually not within the city limits of Las Vegas. It is just outside in a city called Paradise, Nevada.
Mm, paradise, huh? It feels like that the area outside of Vegas is where you go to bury dead bodies. That I don't know. It doesn't sound like paradise to me outside of the Vegas
Well,
strip
that's where
area.
the Raiders went to go bury their franchise.
It's probably true. All right, Cleveland. Okay, Andrew, talk me off of this. Is Watson streamable this week? The matchup says he is streamable.
Is no what streamable? Yes, it technically streamable because the matchup does say it's not even great. It's okay. I am
PFF
not
gives
scratching
him
to do it.
it's a 10. What if there's no Max Crosby? Which
If
he might
there's
not.
no Max Crosby, it does make a big difference. He did not practice on Wednesday, and it's not just some veteran rest day. So to your point, but man,
Although he's never missed a game. There's a decent chance. Listen, as gross as you want to talk about Deshaun Watson, can I give you his weekly finishes?
mm-hmm.
QB 17, QB 11, QB 16.
That's all garbage time. And I know garbage time might happen again, but oh, it's so bad.
Listen, I'm just saying, like, as a deep sleeper, okay, maybe a DFS play or something. I do think the ceiling's not there.
He hasn't passed for 200 yards in a game yet.
No, he hasn't. Although he got close last week, Andrew. He's 4 away. And he did throw 2 touchdown passes. And he hasn't rushed for anything fewer than 20 yards. I'm just going to say, I think there's a chance he puts up a 20-point plus game. But
I'm
anyway.
not forcing it, but
No.
you
No.
can technically, it's America. You have the freedom to start it.
It's true. It's true. Amari Cooper, I'm starting him, though. I think it's a great matchup for him. Raiders, they're not, yeah, well, they're basically bottom 10 in every receiver metric. So, yeah, he's startable. Jerome Ford, Raiders giving up the second most fantasy points to the running back position. We just talked about Chuba Hubbard did against them. I think Jerome Ford could do similar things. Jerry Jeudy, though, I probably draw the line. I think Deshaun's probably only able to support one good wide receiver. Now, could be Jeudy. Maybe Cooper doesn't do it, but I'm going to bank on Cooper more than Jerry Jeudy. That's about it.
Make up your dang mind, Cleveland Browns, and what's going on with running backs. Because here's Jerome Ford's snap share. 73% week 1, then 42%. We all panicked. Everyone picked up Deonta Foreman. And then he was back to 83% of the snaps. Which, if he gets that, he's a weekly start because he's involved in the pass game. And that's plenty of carries.
Yeah.
But if he drips back down to 50%, now you can't start him anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Make up your mind. Don't do this to us.
And knock it off. Browns defense. Start them as well.
Yes.
And you know what? Actually, I think both defenses are in play. Raiders, I think I'm a little less wanting to put them in if Max Crosby doesn't play. But I still think Browns have been so bad. Their offensive line has been terrible. They've been getting sacked left and right. So I think they're still in play. They are playing at home. I don't think you'll get burned by them.
No, you can start them, and it just might not be a huge upside unless Deshaun Watson throws a lot of interceptions. If Max doesn't go. If Max goes, he might get 6 sacks in this game.
I know. It's a high ankle sprain, though, that he's playing through. I can't imagine that's fun. That can't be easy.
No, it'll be, do not turn it on. Do not watch the game. Who will you start on the Raiders side of the football?
Oh, God, we still got to talk about the other team.
Yeah, they're gross.
For the Raiders, well, Devontae Adams popped up on the injury report again, or another player like Deontay with a hamstring injury midweek, which is not great. It's not a great matchup either, although we did see Malik Neighbors go off against them. Although I think at this point in their careers, Malik Neighbors might be the best wide receiver in football. So it's hard to really compare the two, but I still think Devontae Adams is a great wide receiver. Just makes me a little bit nervous, that hamstring injury. Again, though, Andrew, if you have him, you're kind of forced to play him. So you're playing Devontae Adams. You're playing Brock Bowers. He's my tight end 1 this week. He should be fine. That's probably where I draw the line with Raiders. I think Zamir White can be on waivers at this point. He's not playable. I don't think any other Raider besides Bowers and Adams are playable.
Zamir White played 24% of snaps last week. but somehow managed 71% of the rushing attempts while doing that. So he was on the field for 12 snaps, and on 10 of those, he got a carry. Like, I don't know how he did this. That's actually really impressive that he did that. But yeah, you can't start any Raiders running back. Someone might emerge out of there and be startable. Brock Bowers every week, Devontae Adams every week. I think the Raiders are just that easy.
Yep.
AJ, get us to something that looks better than this.
I don't think it's going to,
Uh,
Andrew.
I was going to say it's not much better for this next one. We have the Chiefs taking on the Chargers. The
Remember
Chiefs
when that
are
was a great
favored.
matchup?
I was just gonna say
Remember
that.
This was like,
It was
everyone would
Herbert.
stop what they're doing to watch this.
Herbert versus Mahomes. Herbert's going to throw it 50 times. Mahomes 55. And now it's going to be like Mahomes 30, Herbert 15 pass attempts.
A battle of the trenches. What are we doing? I mean,
Yeah.
that's Harbaugh, so we love it. But still, what are we doing? AJ, what was your fun fact?
Well, the Chiefs are favored by 7. Over under is 39.5. And we talked a little bit last week about Carson Steele's pet alligator, which is the most terrifying animal in the world, by the way. But its
Great white
name
shark.
is Crocky J.
What? Crocky J. I'm moving Carson Steele down my ranks. We gotta be more creative than that, Carson.
What is it? What was it?
Crocky J.
PJ.
No, that sounds stupid. That's a dumb name. I'm dropping him in my dynasty rankings.
Do you have Carson Steele in our dynasty? You can drop him outright. I'll pick him up for you. Just hold him.
I'm just dropping him in my rankings. All right. Mahomes. This has to be the first Mahomes game that's been a under 40 point over under. It's got to be. Since he's been Mahomes.
Which has been his whole life, roughly. He's always somehow been Mahomes.
I think, he's actually the second. Did you know that, Andrew?
Okay, all right, never mind. I take it back. That was stupid. Continue.
Let's see. Chargers giving up the 5th fewest fantasy points to the quarterback position. Mahomes hasn't been great anyway. So, again, I thought he was actually going to be a lot better this year. It hasn't happened yet. Now, we didn't get Marquise Brown, so he didn't get the full offense. I didn't think Travis Kelce was done. He is done. I think he's toast. So
I will put some breaks on that. The team is at least coming to his defense. I haven't vetted the film yet. The team's coming to his defense saying he is, quote, not washed. The team is just covering him like double, triple coverage. I will give them that because look how open Rashee Rice is literally all the time. Rashee Rice is not that good. But so maybe there is some bounce back because Rashee Rice has been incredible.
Here's a question. Is Rashee Rice, he's the new Michael Thomas.
Yes.
He's literally the new Michael Thomas, which, is he a sell? Like, when do you sell that?
You don't. You don't.
That's what I thought, because Michael Thomas was good as long as he was tied to Drew Brees. Once Drew Brees retired, now, part of it, it's hard to say with Michael Thomas because he just kept getting injured, and it just killed his career. So as long as Rice is healthy and he's tied to Mahomes, I think that's just going to keep happening.
Yeah, and Rice is good. Rice actually is a good receiver. I don't want to downgrade what he's doing, but he's not this good. He's putting up Justin Jefferson numbers.
Well, that's my point, though. Michael Thomas was a good receiver, too. He was a good wide receiver. He just wasn't. I would never have he wasn't on the same levels like Devontae Adams, though.
But for fantasy, it's going to work out.
Yes.
And that's where, for fantasy, he is almost Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. So he's my wide receiver 4 this week, and it's not even a good matchup. Like, the Chargers giving up the 5th fewest points to the wide receiver position. PFF has it as an average, like 6 out of 10 matchup. Not great matchup. I could see, the over-under says this could be low scoring, but I think he'll get targeted enough to where he's going to be fine. It's really hard to rank him too low. Like, he's always going to be inside your top 10. I don't like Xavier Worthy in this one at all. Like, I don't really want to play him just because I don't think the volume will be there. And the Chargers are giving up not very many points to the wide receiver position. So I think he can be on your bench. I think Carson Steele, like, one of these running backs could do something. The Chargers are giving up the second most receptions to the running back position. So my guess is it would be Pirine. If somebody's going to pop off in this one, I could see it being Pirine getting 6 receptions, maybe one of them for a touchdown. So I kind of like him this week. Travis Kelce, he has my tight end 3 on the week because he's Travis freaking Kelce. Chargers are giving up the 4th most receptions to the tight end position. At some point, there is going to be a Travis Kelce game. So you have to keep him in your lineup because that will happen at some point.
I think Justin Herbert will go in this one. So hopefully the Chargers will put up some sort of fight. But that might not even happen. We'll talk Chargers side of the ball in a second. That being said, it looks like the Chiefs should really be ahead. It's just going to be, the Chiefs defense will mash them. Carson Steele had the lion's share of this backfield. He was just getting what Pacheco was getting, outside of the targets, 64% of the snaps, 61% of the rush attempts, and he got a couple of targets. Carson Steele is startable. Kareem Hunt's going to be there. He's going to steal a little bit.
Oh, I keep forgetting about Hunt. I didn't even bring him up. He's not.
Because he's just getting moved in this week. The team is very much, we don't know what this guy's going to be because he's so old and just got off his couch. So Carson Steele is startable because we're thinking the Chiefs will be ahead almost the entire time.
Yeah. Other side of the ball, I don't really want to start any Chargers. Even J.K. Dobbins, I don't want to start. Chiefs get up the third fewest points to the running back position, giving up they're basically bottom 5 in every running back metric. Oh, and we're not expecting a lot of points from the Chargers, so I think J.K. Dobbins is absolutely benchable. Really depends on your lineup. I've got him as my RB26, so that's a flex play depending on your lineup, depending on how deep your league is, but I don't think he's a plug in your lineup every week. The usage did go up last week, but it makes me nervous.
There are 3 Chargers offensive linemen, including their best two. Both their tackles are out.
Alt's out.
Alt is out. Rashawn Slater looks like he's not going to end up playing. And I don't know who Trey Pipkins is. Sorry, I'm not that deep in the NFL. But that's 3 starters against a really, really good Chiefs defensive line.
Chris Jones is going to go nuts. Start the Chiefs defense.
You can put, again, Dobbins as a flex play is the best you can do. I'm not chasing anything else. If I have to start a Chargers wide receiver for some reason, AJ walked down to my house and said, hey, man, I've stolen everything you've ever loved, and you have to start a Chargers receiver. It's going to be Ladd McConkey. Yeah. I still don't want to.
No. And Hayden Hurst is probably just going to play like guard in this one. So, yeah, I'm not excited about any of these players.
Heck no. Start your studs on the Chiefs side. I have faith that hopefully Kelsey will come back. You can maybe start Dobbins. That's it. AJ, next one. We're winding down. Sunday Night Football?
No, this is back to... Sorry, I jumped the gun. Go ahead.
Yeah. So on to Sunday Night Football, we have the Bills-Ravens. The Ravens are favored by 2.5. The over/under is 46.5. And despite being 1-2, the Ravens are power ranked in a lot of polls as a top 10 team, and even in some polls, they're a power ranked at 5.
Ew. Like, the Ravens have been ahead, I think at some point in every game where they had against the Chiefs, they blew leads to the to the Raiders and to the Cowboys. And so they start in the first half, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL.
Yep. I still like them. I think this is going to be a fun game. This is the one probably I'm most excited about, honestly. Helps when you have Josh Allen in a couple leagues. That makes it more fun. But on the Ravens side of the ball, Lamar Jackson's my QB3 on the week. Derrick Henry, I moved him all the way up to RB6. I think he should be able to run all over this Buffalo Bills defense, who's giving up the 7th most points to the position. They're giving up a lot of receptions. Not like I'm expecting Derrick Henry to get any, but he's good for 1 or 2, and he usually gets you at least 10 yards when he does. And Andrew, has he scored in every game yet a touchdown?
Derrick Henry has.
He has. So let's just go ahead and pencil in a touchdown. I like Derrick Henry this week. Not as good of a matchup, though, for Zay Flowers. Don't care too much. Still have him as my wide receiver 21 because I think the guy's really good at football. But just temper expectations for Zay Flowers. He had a down week last week. Honestly, I think there's a good buy low window. Like, sell him on the fact that this is a tough matchup. PFF has it as a horrible matchup. So they got it basically as a 0 on their matchup grade. So I think you could try to buy low on Zay Flowers. But just temper expectations this week. Mark Andrews. Andrew, I've got him as my tight end 8. That's too high, isn't it? It feels too high.
I think it is because I just think there's guys you can pick up off the waiver wire who might be worth a start over him.
Like, are you going Zach Ertz over him?
I probably would. We haven't heard an explanation as to why he played 35% of snaps.
I need to see. He's going to Europe soon to get something looked at. Like, that's got to be the next report because they're not playing him, and he's one of the best tight ends in the league. So something's got to be wrong with him.
We were preaching, do not panic on Mark Andrews because his usage was fine. 75% of routes week 1, 73% of routes week 2. That's good for tight ends, like really good. And 35%, something's weird.
But he wasn't even playing a ton of snaps, was he?
Very few snaps. 35% of routes.
Yeah, what was his I heard this the other day, and now I dropped the number. I'm pulling it up right now. He had a 33% snap share percent. If my math's correct, I think that's exactly 1/3 of the plays.
Good
He's on the
math,
field.
Steven. 33.33333.
Yeah.
What's even more troubling is Isaiah Likely's not playing much either. He had 59% of routes. What are we doing?
Well, but Likely was actually getting on the field. Likely 62% of the
block.
snaps. Yeah, and they were bringing in Kohler, which I forgot about that guy, that he existed. I see this tight end. Did he get a touchdown last week or just a big reception? One of the two. And I was like, who? Oh, God, that's Charlie Kohler. Like, so, yeah, they're doing a lot of they're playing 3 tight ends. That's not what you want to hear. You do not want to hear that. It's good news for Zay Flowers because he's still going to get a ton of targets. He's going to be the highest target share for sure. But to me, the only guys I'm really playing that I'm confident in is I'm still confident in Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. I'm very worried about the tight ends. I think you can play both Andrews and Likely, but only because there's not a ton of great options out there.
I won't drop Mark Andrews yet, but it's unfortunately heading that direction. I never thought it would.
Yeah.
One thing to know for Zay Flowers, weirdly not great against zone defense. He's much more of a man beater, but he's been fine against both. It's just if he's in a man-heavy matchup, that's where we're going to start targeting him more. So maybe temper some expectations. Unless he gets to a huge shootout, he still gets the volume. You still start Zay Flowers every week.
Yeah, and how many points did Christian Kirk get against this defense last week? He got 16 points. So if Kirk can
but he's a zone beater.
Yeah, but I still like Zay Flowers better, regardless. I think
true.
I think he's playable.
Absolutely,
Josh,
playable. I just temper expectations.
And I actually think we both said the same thing.
Excellent.
Josh Allen, playing him, obviously. James Cook, tougher matchup for him. Don't care. Ravens are bottom 5 against running back position in points allowed and touches per game, as well as total yards. Temper expectations for James Cook, but you got to play him, Andrew. So he's in the lineup, my RB13. Got to play Khalil Shakir. Good matchup, actually, against the Ravens. Ravens giving up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and he is Josh Allen's most trusted guy. He's a guy I like. You didn't like him, Andrew. I liked him this offseason. He's been fine. He's not been great, but he's been, I guess, kind of what I thought he might be. Like, get you 10 points. Spike week maybe gets you 20.
Here's why I didn't like Khalil Shakir. He caught everything at the line of scrimmage and wasn't actually working his way open. Here's why that doesn't matter. It's the Rashee Rice thing. It doesn't matter that he's not running downfield. I just thought Rashee Rice looked more talented. I still think he is more talented. I think that's undoubtable. But it just doesn't matter that Shakir isn't good at getting open because they're just going to get him in the right zone. He'll catch the ball and he'll go crazy with it. Well, he is good for fantasy.
And he gets matchups versus the team's worst defender. I think that's typically what we see with him, but I don't care. I just want fantasy points. Dalton Kincaid still not looking all that great, but matchups there for him. Ravens giving up the 2nd most fantasy points, receptions, and receiving yards to the position. So you got to play him. It's my tight end 4, but I haven't loved what I've seen out of him so far.
I think you fire him up, though. The Bills, the vibes are too good for the Bills. They have been destroying teams left, right, and center. Their point differential is the best in the NFL at plus 64. That is just not good for the passing game all around, except for Khalil Shakir, who's just scoring more of the touchdowns. Keep starting Dalton Kincaid. I don't have a reason to panic yet. He's your guy you drafted to start every week. And before week 3, when the starters basically get pulled, route percentage, 83%, 75%. I like what I'm seeing for Dalton Kincaid.
I just want to point this out, though, with the Bills. Like, I did my rest of season rankings, and you can criticize me if you disagree, Andrew, but I had Josh Allen as the QB2, and I had Lamar Jackson as the QB1. There's about 5 points separating the two on the season. I think Josh Allen has had the easiest schedule to start the season. He has played at home versus Arizona, who can't stop anybody, and he played Miami with Tua getting injured in the first half, and that was they just routed them. Plus, he's got Miami's number. He destroys Miami every time they play Miami. And he only put up 9 points in that one, actually. So he actually didn't even have that good a game, although he played probably 3 quarters. Mm-hmm. And then they played Jacksonville, who Jacksonville also has been pretty terrible. So he's had a very easy slate. Things will get tougher. I think even though on paper this shows as it's an easier matchup at Baltimore. Baltimore at home, they're still tough. I still think this could be a tough game for him. He's got at Houston, and then he's got like a lot of tough defenses coming up. So he's still awesome. He's Josh Allen. He's a freaking superhero, but he has had a pretty easy start to the season.
The Ravens defense has been 24th in passing efficiency against them. So the Bills passing defense or passing offense should actually reign pretty supreme in this game. James Cook, like you said, a little bit of a rough one. It'll be a fun game.
Yep, for sure. That's a great Sunday night football game.
Let's go. Now let's get to a terrible Monday night football game, AJ.
All right. Well, luckily this one can get buried since there's 2 games on Monday night, but we have the Titans taking on the Dolphins. The Dolphins are favored by 1. Over under is 36.5. And after just 3 weeks, Vegas has seen enough of Will Levis this year to still favor Miami, even though they might be going with their third string quarterback.
It is rumored that the Titans are already looking into quarterback replacements. So if you have Will Levis in Dynasty, if you have Will Levis in something that matters in Superflex, I would start shopping for replacements.
This is a program, the Fantasy Guides podcast program, Andrew, that hated Will Levis. We also hated Kenny Pickett also. Just guys that we were just not high on. Yeah, they need to get rid of him. The fact that he is not favored, and it's not like the Titans are like this team with terrible players. No, they got good players. They have good players on both sides of the ball. This is a good team outside of Will Levis. Will Levis stinks. Dolphins, I actually like A-Chain. We were talking to Andrew about like selling Dolphins players. A-Chain, when I looked closer at his schedule and like his next 10 games, I don't think there's a running back with a better schedule on paper. So I think A-Chain's going to have a good game in this one. I got him as my RB12. The upside's not quite there as it was a few weeks ago. But hey, if Tua ends up only missing a couple games, maybe these guys will be all right. I think it's still going to be hard to project big games from the pass catchers in this one, but you're obviously playing Tyreek Hill. I just have him as a wide receiver too, like a back end wide receiver too now, because I am a little bit nervous about. We still don't know who's starting at quarterback. I kind of think it might be Huntley.
Hopefully,
yeah. But if that is Huntley, I just don't think there's going to be a ton of pass volume. Historically, Huntley has kind of played more of a conservative role at quarterback, so I could see that happening. So I'm tempering expectations a little bit for Tyreek and for Waddle. PFF thinks it's actually a decent matchup for the two. I just don't know that the quarterback's going to be able to do a lot with it. So I'm starting Tyreek. I'm starting A-Chain. I'm starting Jalen Waddle if I'm just in a deeper league and I need to, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, I'm actually very willing to start H-N this week. I think the matchup is just going to go in their favor. The Titans offense, it has to get in the game script it needs. They're not going to be able to stop a decent Miami Dolphins pass rush. The Titans are 32nd in pressure rate against them.
Jeez.
Miami's going to get to the quarterback. I think that's going to put Miami in a positive game script. And Jeffrey Simmons, get out of here. You can't run the ball on Tennessee, is what he's going out there and telling the media. 1, do not give them locker room hanging material. Just don't do that. It's unnecessary. That's all they can do is run the football. So I see Miami getting ahead in this one, rushing the passer, getting turnovers. A-Chan and company will eat. I will say you can go ahead and start Jalen Wright potentially in this one if he's healthy. Let me check the practice or the injury report for Mr. It looks like both these teams are fully healthy. Raheem Mostert back, so maybe not Wright. Put in Mostert. The Titans are 24th in overall rushing efficiency in terms of stopping it. So I like A-Chan in this one to have a bounce back game.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd go as far as any of the running backs. That doesn't get my signature, Andrew, outside of A-Chain. There's still only 19 implied points for the Dolphins, so there's just not enough points for me to get too excited about them, like having more than a couple players with decent fantasy outings. I get what you're saying as to why, but I don't see this being a blowout. They're only 1.5 point favorites for, against the Titans. On the Tennessee side of the ball, I'm still starting Tony Pollard. Miami giving up the 5th most fantasy points to the running back position. They're giving up the 2nd most touchdowns and the 10th most yards to the running back position. So I think you can play Tony Pollard. I'm not too excited about the wide receivers, though. Are you starting any wide receiver for the Titans?
I can start Calvin Ridley. I'm not quite chasing the D-Hop thing just yet.
Yeah, I'm with you there, too. I think Ridley can be played. He was obviously bad last week, but I think that's what you're going to get with these wide receivers. I think you're going to get games where they just disappear just because Will Levis is that bad. But I think Ridley, he's like, as a wide receiver 3, I think he's startable.
You can fire up Tony Pollard every single week just because he's getting incredible usage. He's getting 65% of the snaps. He's getting 68% of the carries. He's getting a 15% target share. You can start Pollard every week, but he is going to be more of a RB3 in what I don't think will be a phenomenal matchup.
Correct.
AJ,
All right.
we got one more, buddy. Bring us home.
All right, lastly, we have the Seahawks taking on the Lions. The Lions are favored by 3.5. Over under is 45.5. And it is estimated that every year in the U.S., outdoor cats kill about 2.4 billion birds. So I was wondering if you guys were thinking that the Seahawks would fall to the big cats this week.
I had no idea where you were going with that fact.
I did.
Until we got here.
I went. I figured there was some sort of animal tie-in there. These. I want to say both of the last couple of times these two teams have played, it's been fireworks. Let me double check that, Andrew. Hold on.
Well, both of these defenses have been historically awful these last couple of years. The Lions have gotten both sides have gotten a little bit better. But yeah, these last couple of years, to your point, Stephen, have been terrible for these defenses.
Yeah, I'm trying. I pulled up the wrong thing. But Detroit last time that they played Seattle, Jared Goff threw 3 touchdown passes and for 323 yards. And I think it was one of Geno's better games last year, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And that goes for the past 2 seasons. So I think these teams, and for some reason, it's always in Detroit. I think they've played 3 years in a row in Detroit, and they've been shootouts. I think this could be another semi-shootout in this one. Detroit's run defense, though, really good. So even though I do think it's going to be all Zach Charbonnet this week, Detroit ranks number 1 against fantasy points to the running back position, touches to the running back position, receptions, yards, and they rank as the 4th worst matchup for total touchdowns to the running back position. So I am worried about Zach Charbonnet.
It does look like Kenneth Walker is likely back this week. He's on the practice field.
Oh, I saw. You know what? I was trying to find it this week. It's because they're on West Coast time. He did not practice yesterday, but that would have been because they play Monday night, correct? This would have been the first week.
Yep.
First day they would have practiced. Okay, so that makes sense. Then yeah, don't start Charbonnet then, especially if Kenneth Walker's back. You have to play Walker, but he would be more of a back end RB2 for me this week, given the matchup. I do like the wide receivers though in this one, Andrew. I think DK Metcalf, he's a top 12 option. I think he's gonna have a big game. I think Tyler Lockett could have a big game in this one. The PFF likes his matchup the best out of the 3 wide receivers, but I think all these wide receivers could be in play as like a wide receiver 3 flex option. So if you've got them, I think this is the game to start them. And I think the same goes with Geno Smith. I think I've got him as the QB 11 this week. Historically, like I said, the last 2 seasons he's had good games against Detroit. I think it could happen again.
I actually like JSN in one. I think it's the JSN week again. It's the Seattle Seahawks wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 are just infuriating to figure out who it's going to be. The reason I think it's JSN is the slot receivers have been what's getting to the Lions defense. Last week, the Cardinals wide receivers, to be noted, they have 2 good outside receivers. The Cardinals couldn't move the ball. But when they played the Buccaneers, Chris Godwin, over 100 yards. Week 1, Cooper Kupp, over 100 yards. Those are both good receivers, but those are both also slot receivers. I think this is a JSN week.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I think if you're not going to have probably all of these guys. If you have any of them, I think they're playable this week. Except I don't like Noah Fant. They've actually been stingy against the tight end position, and Noah Fant had 1 good game. I'm not chasing his good game last week. And then Detroit, to start Detroit, right? I think it's a more of a little bit of a temper your expectations because Seattle hasn't been terrible on defense. So they give up the 2nd fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver position, the fewest receiving yards, the 5th fewest receptions. So it's a more of a temper your expectations for Amon-Ra, but I'm not obviously benching him. He's my wide receiver 6. Same thing with Jared Goff. He's a more of a QB, mid-range QB2 for me. This week is a tough matchup. Seattle giving up the 4th fewest points to the quarterback position. But you're still starting both running backs. Where I am a little nervous is playing Jameson Williams. I couldn't find myself recommending him as a start or a sit because he is such a good player. I mean, he's showing to be a good player. But I think this could be a tough matchup for him. Are you willing to throw him in your lineup? What are you seeing, Andrew?
I'm willing to start Jameson Williams every week if I must. If your team has been ravaged and you're starting JMO every week, you could do a lot worse. He's getting the usage. He is talented. I think the league's going to figure him out a little bit, and we'll see more Sam Laporta involved. But he is definitely, it's not fake. I think he really is he's not a wide receiver one, but he's a fantasy asset. Where I don't love him in this matchup, I will still start him, is the Seahawks are number one in preventing passing efficiency. So that leads me to believe downfield shots aren't going to be there. It's just what Mike McDonald does. But the Lions are going to get to do what they want and run the football. It is a big advantage according to Next Gen Stats for the Lions offensive rushing game versus the defense.
Well, and I will say, like, just going back to the wide receivers, we got to take some context of who Seattle's played, giving up the second fewest fantasy points to the position. They played Denver in week 1, rookie quarterback Cortland Sutton as your best wide receiver option. They played New England week 2. I mean, we know the receivers there, but does the average football fan know the receivers in New England? Probably not. But they did shut down both the Miami Dolphins wide receivers last week.
Might have been Skylar Thompson.
But it could have been that they don't have a quarterback. It's a little bit wait and see. And Detroit, they are playing at home. AJ, I don't know why every week I need the update, like the mileage for Seattle to whatever. If they're going 3 time zones, I need to know. The mileage. You should have had this on the show sheet. That should have been the stat you led with, but maybe next week.
I got to say, across this slate, that'll finish it up, all the games for us. Is kind of a weird week. I think we just kept saying start your studs. There's not a lot of matchups where we're like, here's the little guy to do great things in this one. It's a kind of a ugly week.
I think that the best matchup for that is the Cardinals Commanders game. I think that's the best one where a lot could happen in that one. Because now last week I thought it would happen. It was the highest over under when the Cardinals played the Lions, but the Lions defense actually proved to be pretty stifling. I don't think that will happen with the Commanders. So I think this is one that could hit the over.
Yeah, we got to hope something does something good for us. I'm trying to chase a sneaky high over under game where I think a lot of points can be scored. Maybe Minnesota, Green Bay, just because both offenses are good. But there's, other than Washington, Arizona, that's the one. Buffalo, Baltimore, but I don't think that's sneaky.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Alrighty, well, we've made it, gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We made it through all the games, every single game except for Thursday night. Let's go watch some of that right after this. Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Guides podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. If you're watching us, please like and hit the subscribe button. You guys have been showing us a lot of love lately. We greatly appreciate it. The greatest thing you can do for us is rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe on YouTube, and just keep coming back for more goodness. Get a weekly season guide from fantasyguides.com for less than a large pizza. It's incredible. It's where we pull all of our stats. Follow our page on Instagram, X, TikTok, everywhere at Fantasy Guides. It's nice and easy to spell. I'm Andrew Teuscher. That's Stephen Rippey. That's AJ Cleaver. Gentlemen, say goodbye to the friends at home.
Depends on the
pizza.
Guys. Really depends on the pizza.
Get out of here.